Mike, we're right now 1 minute into New York City's newly revised curfew, 8 p.m. There were just numerous sirens out the window. I've got the window open so we can kind of keep our ears on that throughout the broadcast. How are you tonight?
Good, brother.
Been
Yeah,
a
hanging in there.
wild couple
Been busy
days.
around here. Yeah, been busy around here. I didn't even have time to set up. You called me. I was like, shuffling around. I usually have my head together, but not tonight. It's like one
Really,
thing
really,
after.
it is. And TruePundit.com has a number of stories for people to check out. I mean, everybody's obviously been glued to the TV, the internet, looking at this really unprecedented civil unrest. Did you get a chance to see the press conference that Bill de Blasio held earlier today?
I caught a portion of it after you and I talked earlier, and then 25 other things came flying in, and we're getting the podcast ready. Two podcasts ready for tomorrow. So it's Tuesdays are the big. Tuesdays are like the day around here, right? You got you and I, and then we do that now, and then at
Yep.
8:30, right? And then later in the morning we release two podcasts, Pain in the Morning, and then the regular podcast. So it's always something popping. Then you got to stay on top of the news too, which has been absolutely insane. So no, I
Right.
saw some of it. He's out of his mind.
Well, I don't want to be that dismissive or paint it with that broad of a stroke because it's easy to dismiss it as that. But I don't think that's the case. I think we're moving very steadily towards something that's been planned and spoken about by a lot of different groups. Cecil Rhodes, his 200-year manifesto, and how he's used his Rhodes Scholarship to assemble these agents, these double-cross agents. I'm talking about Susan Rice, Bill Clinton, James Woolsey. These are all people who were Rhodes Scholars that we all think, oh, that's a great thing. But this deception is one of the number one tools that they use. And people have seen me out on the streets trying to engage in conversation with some of the people who are protesting. Doesn't seem like they have a lot of background or information about some of these things. They're just pissed off and they want to destroy stuff.
That's a byproduct of growing of a couple different things, but you're not dealing with legal scholars out there and constitutional scholars and people versed in world history and U.S. history. No, that's for the most part. Now there are those guys are the leaders out there that if you roll up on and you start debating them, they have a pretty good basis to refute you. But the majority of the people following them around in the street, no. You could, if what might be interesting to do is start asking them just basic U.S. history questions.
I ask
Yeah,
them what their purpose is of what they have written on the sign, their own sign that they've made, and they don't even know. They don't want to talk about it.
you could say crazy things like, "What do you think of our Vice President Andrew Johnson?" Stuff like that.
All right, Cory Booker is a Rhodes Scholar. So, I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah,
People are starting to realize how, you put a Weather Underground guy as the district attorney of San Francisco, and you make the senator from New Jersey a Rhodes Scholar, and all these people are subversive, socialists. They have these different Marxist ideologies, but they definitely want to destroy the United States. They want to destroy all the property around here, destroy the buildings, destroy the businesses. I had opportunity to speak to somebody who sounded like an immigrant. He had an accent, but he sounded like he'd been living in the United States for a long, long time, protecting his business, struggling with one guy. I mean, moving around a pallet of plywood, that alone, you could be injured. Nailing it up on the thing. I saw a guy, didn't look like a construction worker, but he had a DeWalt drill in a bag. I think he's going to use that to unscrew the screws that people were putting up plywood with. Why are the NYPD not around checking this stuff out? Me as one person, I've seen things that were grounds for questioning people.
Well, NYPD is. I'm not going to make excuses for the police. I've been critical of them for a week now, people are starting to think that I'm some kind of a communist, and I'm just saying, I'm just calling it like it is. Like, they're not around, so they could be frustrated with de Blasio and other things, and I think that de Blasio is telling the I don't think, I know he's telling the Chiefs, don't and and the top brass, don't go out and smash people's heads in and things like that. And then what happens is, like I talked about it today earlier, having a great basis as a juvenile delinquent myself. When we used to play this like cat and mouse game with the cops, and I think the cops just kind of went along with it because half the time because they just wanted to see what we come up with. But if the cops gave you like a little bit of rope, you were going to take it every time. So, and then when the cops got serious with us, we're like, whoa, that turned quickly. And then we kind of went away and went and, played street hockey or something or screwed around. But if you give these guys, if you're in the street with the cops and you see the cops are backing up and retreating, you're in the street and all of a sudden you're empowered by that imagery and what's going on. So, and then you become more emboldened until, someone gives you a fat lip. It's just human nature. It's not anything complicated. But if the people above these cops are saying don't engage these folks because they don't want that imagery of people getting their heads bashed in, then therein lies the problem. And a lot of cops are saying it's frustrating. We can't do anything. Our hands are tied. And so I'm thinking, well, why are you even out there then? You're just going to get yourselves hurt. I saw a cop last night in New York City get rolled, and he got lucky. I think some people stuck their neck out for him, but he got lucky, man, because they were coming in and 3, 4, 5 guys were like bum rushing the guy, and I'm like, whoa, how did he get separated from his unit? You got to stick together, man. You got to be like almost like a chain gang when you're out there against these people. You can't get separated, right? It's literally like if you watch, you can't. It's like,
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's they're throwing things at the guy. It kind of reminded me of RoboCop, where they just they're basically wilding on this guy. Did he take out a gun? Doesn't he have a gun?
I don't think he took out. I don't know what.
He's got something in his hand right there. It looks like he had the gun.
I don't know what he's doing. The guy is.
But why is he alone? I mean, you never really see the police hanging out alone.
Yeah, peeled off. You got peeled off. Some stuff happens, and it's like a couple of weeks ago, somebody sent me a video of like a gazelle that was out out wherever they're at, and it got separated from the pack, and this fucking lion came out of nowhere, and then 4 or 5 other lions. I'm like, that guy's done. That gazelle's got no chance. It's like, oh, he's got some good moves. Oh, where did that second and third lion come? These guys are like pals on you, like it's one of those videos, and you're like, whoa, this is crazy. And you see that, and they feed off each other. The mob mentality is obviously very dangerous. There's nothing new here we're saying, but the problem is, you and I talked about it earlier today. I talked about it all day to people because I said on my morning podcast, you got to come out cracking heads right away. Yeah. You can't give these people 4 or 5 days or 6 days to assemble and plan and
refine their methods. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and all the while knowing that they're not going to get any major pushback, because I think politicians too in different cities, they don't want the imagery of African American people, African American troublemakers getting their heads cracked open by police. That's like a big no, obviously. But what happens is then, are police supposed to sort out like who are the protected classes during these riots and stuff? It's impossible. So then the police just say, we're just going to pull back because we're in a no-win situation. Based on a lot of times these dopes that have been put into office by guys like Soros and things like that. And you start to wonder, oh, now it's starting to take shape. This is obviously an operation. This isn't just some random grassroots riot, right? Because look, if anybody should have been rioting, it's us out here. who've been locked up and had jobs and businesses. We should have been the ones out in the street saying this is bullshit, right? At least protesting or marching or whatever.
But they shut that down right away. When I went to City Park Hall to protest the lockdowns, they said, nope, you got to leave, and everybody left. They haven't done that to these protests. They've allowed those to stand. Why is that?
That's the $64,000 question, right? Why do you try to provoke law-abiding citizens who have a right to assemble in the Constitution as part of the Bill of Rights, right? You provoke them, but people who are out on the street, basically domestic terrorists, you let them do whatever they want. So what does that tell you, right? It tells you that there's something going on. These people have marching orders, Cuomo, de Blasio. The dope in Minnesota, Fry, whatever. His name should be Fry. It's F-E-R-Y. Yeah. Because the whole city got fried, okay? That should be his name, Mayor Fry.
Mike, why is that mayor not going on television and telling us about this investigation into the prior relationship of George Floyd and Derek Chauvin? That seems like such a significant aspect in this, and they're burying it. They're just saying, oh, no, this is a tragedy that a racist police officer killed a black guy. Nothing else going on here. Nothing to discuss.
It's a good question, but, you know, somebody was telling me today here, they came to me and said, oh, yeah, look at this guy's toxicology report, Floyd. And I said, who cares at this point? That's like Floyd is old news. The country's on fire. It's like, and they're not, it might be relevant, okay? Number one, it doesn't excuse what the cop did. I don't care if the guy's half in the bag or whatever. It doesn't excuse what the cop did.
Yeah, now they have this whole fentanyl story. Why does that matter?
It doesn't matter. And anything can happen, right? The guy, look, let's just be basic and smart about this. If you're going to choke a guy out in the street in front of the cameras and you stuff him in a bus, who says you can't put a needle in the guy's neck or whatever you want?
Fill him with fentanyl, right?
Well, you know, why not? Why not?
Why would he do it on camera, Mike? Because there's so many factors here, whether he knows him or doesn't know him. Well,
don't forget, too, I think it's important, since we're talking about this, to point out, not a lot of people have done this, but we have here. We've done it here. And we just didn't do a story on it because it's like, look, it's old news, right? But if you watch the video of when Floyd got picked up by the, quote, EMTs, there were no fucking EMTs. He was stuffed in the back of an ambulance by cops. He wasn't resuscitated. They didn't leave him sit there and try to do CPR or take his vitals or anything. They literally rolled him over like a sack of potatoes and then stuffed him in the back of an ambulance. And it wasn't EMTs. These guys were wearing vests and guns.
Right.
Like, so don't tell me about toxicology and things like that. When the chain of custody has already been shattered, you stuff the guy in, okay, in a bus like it was, you know, stuffing a choo-choo train and saying a sack. It was just like throwing him in there. Look, if there's a homicide, if someone's dead, right, you have to determine that when you roll up on the street. EMTs come, they try to revive him, they can't revive him, right? First thing is the body doesn't move. There has to be an investigation.
They're rolling him over, wiggling his head around. No EMT would do that.
But not only that, if he's not, they didn't even check to see if he was alive and they put him in the ambulance, right?
Right.
They have, what? And they weren't even EMTs.
Right.
You don't just pick up a body and just take it away. There's an investigation. There's a scene. This is a homicide scene. There's an event. They just picked him up, didn't even check it out, and he's gone. It's like, wait a minute. You didn't even check his vitals. You still didn't check his vitals. And that's because the people that were there had no equipment, no bags, right? They were
no
cops.
Training as EMTs, right?
Where was the EMT?
So bizarre.
Where were the EMT? They just whisked the body away, and it's like, wait a minute. Is he alive? Can you?
Why would the guy? I mean, with Rodney King, I'm not justifying anything that was done. I'm just saying the cops didn't know they were being filmed. It makes sense if you're a psychopath beating somebody up and you don't know that there's a camera that you proceed. But it's strange to imagine that even a psychopath in his police uniform, knowing full well that he's being recorded, would proceed with killing the guy rather than just letting him up and saying, oh, I want to kill this guy, but I don't want to be on camera doing it. Why would he do that? It's suggestive that he wanted the video of him killing the guy to go out.
We can't answer these questions, right? And
But
let me tell
aren't
you
they the most pertinent questions for people like the mayor of Minneapolis and the police chief? Shouldn't they be answering these questions when they look around and see a country that is descending into, I mean, this is, I don't know if civil war is the right word, but this is like a Marxist anarchist revolution that's happening.
it's not civil war yet. And I don't know if it would get to that. It's hard to say where this is going. The problem is
tonight. My friend on 3rd Avenue told me that shop owners are lined up outside their stores. I don't know if they're armed, but if they start shooting people who come at their stores, that's going to be war.
It's escalated now to where I posted this on Twitter yesterday. I made the mistake of even going on Twitter yesterday. And I'm going to be spending less and less time on Twitter because I don't even know what that place is. I think it's probably one of the worst things that's ever happened to this country is Twitter, to be honest with you. That's just me. It's just chaos, vile hatred. There's no room for debate and exchange of opinions without threatening someone else's life. Oh, you disagree with me? I'll kill you. What?
Guarantee that's from a fake name sock puppet account. People aren't using their real names with their website and business address.
You see a lot of that. You see a lot of these guys who have followings, and you don't know who the fuck they are. They could be crazy perverts, you know? Be like, oh, on weekends I molest children. Oh, and you know, and that comes out. It's like, oh, but I was retweeted by all these people. He seemed like such a nice guy. Remember that? We always see that. I mean, come on. I mean, it's crazy.
Direct Disney movies.
These people have big followings. It's like, you don't know who they are. They could be anybody. They could be. Most of them are full of you know what crap. So and they're playing you. So, but anyway, that's a whole nother story. But I sent on Twitter a guy I trust in the federal apparatus, federal system, federal agent told me that this is all done on purpose. The Democratic governors and mayors are telling the police departments to stand down, so that Trump will be forced to put the military in the street.
Right.
And that will be it's their belief that will be his undoing, because there's such a potential for problems when that happens. Not only that, the optics, they'll be using it for, you know, all kind of things against him. And if somebody gets shot, like a Kent State moment, then that'll be, oh, this is Trump's Kent State, you know? And so,
well, that'll just become his whole legacy, won't it?
Well, they'll make it the legacy for the next 5 or 6 months leading up to the election for sure. And this just seems to me like another operation to make sure that he doesn't get reelected. Right on the heels of another operation that I think was put in place, coronavirus, COVID-19, for the same basic reason. And, you know, other than to control this, I think it's a control op too. And I think we're on the way to a second control op. And my argument has been and I haven't seen all these constitutional heroes like Mark Levin and all these people even make a peep out of this. But my constitutional take on this is, you think you want the military in the street, but that's not really something that you want, because it's more erosion of your civil liberties, right? And
but we don't want the city to burn. I mean, the bank, the building right next door to this.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But you have a paramilitary operation already. You have a police department that's well funded. They're well paid. They're well equipped with APCs and all kind of toys that we pay a lot of money for, right? And they have tons of training, right? They can do the job if they're allowed to do the job. If they just stand down and say, well, we're not going to do our job, the military is going to come in, and we'll just let this thing burn down unless the military comes in, then that's part of an operation. The cops are saying the Blasio won't let them do what they want to do and use force to fight back these crowds and stuff. Then it's just an operation for what? To either make it so bad that the military has to come in. I don't know what these guys are doing in a lot of instances, but it's sure starting to look like it's an organized op. Yeah. Again, either against us or Trump, or what the hell's the difference? I'm more concerned. America. I'm more concerned about us than for political reasons, because
we're talking about the literal destruction of our cities. I mean, like I'm saying, the bank, the building literally right next door to this building had its windows all smashed up. And I mean, I think people around New York City, including myself, are wondering how far a leap is it from hundreds of rioters busting the windows at Macy's and pouring in to get to hundreds of rioters busting in the front of an apartment building and running around and looting apartments, killing people, burning buildings.
Anything's possible. I look around and I see different cities and people are putting up plywood on their windows.
It's not going to do anything.
You come in with some kerosene or some gas and the plywood goes up and your windows melt. It's like, thanks for putting something in here.
Kindling. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I understand what they're doing because windows are expensive. Not only that, they don't want people to breach. They want people to breach to get inside. But unfortunately, people are going to be able to do whatever they want to do if the police aren't allowed to. And I call it just plain old Philadelphia, where I grew up, with Police Commissioner Mayor Rizzo. He was Police Commissioner Frank Rizzo, and then he became Mayor Rizzo. Sometimes you just got to crack some heads. But again, it has to be early. These guys have a lot of momentum now. And the bigger it gets and the more emboldened they get and the numbers grow and the numbers swell in the street, and then you want to come in like 4 or 5 days later, heavy-handed. You have triple the work to do now. Triple.
What's the bill going to be for all of this, Mike? I mean, when New York City does come back, how are these businesses going to be restored? We had the executive there at Black Entertainment Television saying Black Americans deserve reparations for wrongdoings from hundreds of years ago. What about people whose businesses are being destroyed today? What reparations do they get?
Where are my reparations for my ruined business in the last 3 months? Where are my reparations for kids that went to college and got yanked out of college in the middle of the work their whole lives to go to college?
What about every country the United States has invaded and destroyed over the past 100 years? What about their reparations?
My reparations for my savings I've lost. Where are my reparations for my house being in foreclosure? Where are my reparations for my I can't feed my family, right? All I got is this lousy $1,200. It's like my country shut down with a fake pandemic and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. I mean, it's insane, right? So reparations is just, okay, look, the founder of BET, right? He made billions of dollars on this whole strife situation between black and white, right? BET, right? There's no white entertainment television. So he's BET. He made,
they would argue that every other.
Great. I think he made $3 billion and he sold something. I think he has like 500 million left. So this isn't probably the guy that you want to talk to about finances and things like that, right? He squandered a lot of his money. I don't know what the guy was doing. Maybe he gave it away. I don't know what the hell he did. But the point is that this is not the time for this kind of rhetoric. It only is throwing gasoline on the situation. And maybe that's what his role is in this. I don't know anything about the guy, right? But we have serious issues in the streets now. You have the White House they're trying to breach the White House. They're bashing in the heads of Secret Service agents. 50 Secret Service agents hurt. Burning down things. Reparations.
Yeah.
For what? We have to rebuild the whole country. What are you talking about? Reparations. Right. And 19 billion, where's that going to come from?
I don't know. But it seems that...
What does that come out to? I think if you add it up, it's $300,000 per every African American in the United States. They're just going to get $300,000 just out of nowhere. Okay. Well, I mean, what?
What about people who aren't necessarily... I mean, this is a whole other conversation to have that I don't think we want to do right now.
Well, it's not. And here's the other thing, too, right? Why do I have to pay reparations? My family wasn't even here in the 1800s. Why don't the Vanderbilts, the fucking DuPonts, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, why don't they pay? They're the ones that capitalize off it. And people in the South, right? They were the ones that capitalized on these big families who have hundreds of years. Guys like Anderson Cooper, part of the Vanderbilt clan, right?
Yeah,
he should pay.
Trillion. Right.
Well,
Mike, let me stop you for a second because we've got to make our transition here over to the sponsor exclusive segment. on patreon.com/truepundit, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And tonight, True Pundit is going to be on Subscribestar as well. So people can start to subscribe on subscribestar.com/truepundit. And we've got sponsor exclusive shows starting in just 5 minutes. So let's make that transition now. People can join us there. We got a lot of questions that people are asking in the chat. So please join us for the sponsor exclusive show. We'll be back in less than 5 minutes with tonight's More Pain. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.